Hello, I'm DIY Dick and welcome back to the channel on this rather cold day in the UK in December, hence the hat. So got a problem with some Christmas lights with one of the cables, so really need to get that fixed. So let's go take a look and see what we need to get done today. Well, at least this one isn't going to be one of those which is going to be difficult to find and diagnose. We've got a pretty clear split in the cable, so let's try and peel some of this insulation back and see what the conductor's like and see how we can actually connect both of these back together and get some functioning Christmas lights. Before even starting this, I hope it goes without saying that I did actually check the electrics were off. Now I know this is only low voltage electricity here that we're dealing with these lights, but it's obviously extremely good practice and essential to make sure that you're not dealing with live electrics when you're not expecting to. The other thing I did just check that were no other issues with the cable, because you might actually get to a point where it's irreparable, but that wasn't the case, and this was the only point that we actually had a break. I think due to some sort of passing fox or cat, perhaps due to their claws, or perhaps they just fancied a little nibble on the cable. Given that, then we're good to go, and as you can already see, I've already split the live and neutral wires on one of the cables, so that leaves me with the next thing to actually remove the insulation and actually expose the conductors for those wires. Now, even though I had a fair bit of cable to work with here, I like to do this quite gradually, because the last thing you want to do is cut off more cable than you actually need to, because it's much more difficult to put it back than to actually cut it in the first place. And with the first part of the cable done, then all that's left is to do exactly the same to the other side, so that we can then actually connect them back together again and hopefully get some working Christmas lights. With both ends of the cable now done, we can now start to connect them back together. And this is when I had to go and visit my electrical spares box and just found a load of large connection blocks, chock boxes and the like. Totally inappropriate for what we're actually trying to do here, totally overkill for these particular lights. So what I actually did find instead was basically a shrink wrap sleeve, if for want of a better description. They're known by various names. But what I thought I'd actually do, given what I've got, just as a temporary fix, and I would revisit this again when I took the lights down. So the first thing to do was to actually get the sleeves on the wires. So I actually had quite a few different sleeve sizes. That's something I did find in my spares box. So it was quite easy for me to find the right size for these cables. So just initially, just to make it easier to put them over the top, was just to make sure I'd actually twisted the conductors together, and then they just slipped straight on over. The next was then actually to connect both conductors back together again, and what I wanted to make sure was that they were very, very tight and wouldn't just pull apart. Now I knew the sleeve would provide some level of support after I applied heat to it, but obviously just didn't want, fundamentally the cables just coming apart all on their own. Now I do appreciate this isn't necessarily the best or the most permanent way to connect two electrical cables together. However, I knew this would be fine for the next week or so until I took the lights down and actually had another look and thought of a more permanent fix. And as I was actually going through this, what I thought I might actually do is go out and buy some more shrink wrap, but not just similar to what I've got, but those with actual electrical connectors within them, so I could properly secure both ends of the cables together. Although in saying that, this was actually a lot more secure than I thought it was going to be. Now, one other thing to call out is not just the size of the shrink wrap that you put over this and the fact you can actually fit it over the wire, but also the length of it as well, because it's absolutely critical it covers the whole conductor that you've just exposed, and it insulates again not just between the two wires but also the outside weld, making sure no moisture or anything else gets into the cable. And then on to the last phase, which is the heat gun. Now this is actually being done in real time and hasn't been shortened for the video whatsoever. It was done with a heat gun on the middle temperature setting. You could probably do with a hot hairdryer, if I'm honest. This was done really, really quickly, but just make sure that you do it really, really thoroughly, and the shrink wrap properly shrinks around the cable, which you can hopefully see now. And the best thing at the end of this was, as you're going to see in just a moment, not only did we have a watertight cable, but even better, we actually had some working Christmas lights. Thanks very much for joining me on the channel. I'll see you again soon with some more videos, and please subscribe.